All right, welcome to WASA Distance Education. This is MEL3E, Grade 11 Math for Work and Everyday Life. I'm Pete, I'm your teacher, and good morning. Welcome to the last week of the semester 1B. So congratulations for sticking with it. Now, what we're doing this week is the exam review, and I have a couple of announcements about that. I'm also going to talk about the culminating activity. So because this is the last week, we're doing review. So there's no new key questions coming at you or anything like that. So what you should ideally be doing this week is working on that culminating activity. Okay, so follow along with the review lessons, and then use your time to work on that culminating activity. If you can get it done this week and send it in, that would be perfect. Okay. Now, as far as that goes, if you miss any of this review, if you missed any of the lessons, remember that all of our lessons are available on the WASA archive. So you just go to the WASA website and find the links to the, I think it's for students. They just changed it, so you might have to poke around a little bit. But you'll find the archive and you'll be able to watch the videos that way. The other way to watch these videos, I have a YouTube channel, and it's PW space OWASA, and then I upload the videos to that channel. Now, sometimes it takes a day or so for the latest lesson to appear, but most of them will be there, and by the end of the week they'll all be there. Okay, so that's a little bit of admin here. One other thing, tomorrow. I'm going to be traveling, so to still be a class, there'll still be a lesson that is pre-recorded. And what that means is that today might not quite sync up with tomorrow. What's probably going to happen is I may end up having to finish off a little bit of today's lesson and tomorrow's lesson on Wednesday when I get back. All right, so just keep that in mind. So don't be alarmed if you find a pre-recording tomorrow. Okay, but it's still a review. It's just we had to do it ahead of time. So last Thursday, then we were going through the review, starting with Unit 1, and we spent quite a bit of time in Unit 1 on those lessons in the course. So part of that is just because we wanted to get you going with the material, and part of it is because there's maybe a bit of emphasis on the Unit 1 side of things. There's a lot of expectations that we meet in there, a lot of topics that we meet in there. So I wrote myself a little note just when we finished on Thursday to show you key question 2, number 5. So we worked through commission and hourly rates, and we already reviewed that on Thursday. And so, for example, how to work out an hourly rate, how to work out an overtime rate. And I gave you a few different strategies for doing that. The book has its way of doing it. I have a way that I think is just a little more systematic, where you work out the overtime rate, the overtime hours, then the regular hours, and then add them all up. And you write a little note ahead of each calculation you're going to do, so it helps keep everything on track. Now, commission is a way of earning income just based on a percentage of the value of what you're selling. It's a common way that people who sell things are paid. Real estate, so people that sell houses and land and property, very common for them to earn commission. Car sales, definitely going to earn commission on that. And then, other types of things like that, RVs, maybe the snowmobile dealer might get a commission, ATV, stuff like that. Occupation like that. It can be a pretty good deal, because the better people who are really good at that kind of thing, good at that kind of selling, you could be one of them. They make fairly good money, right? And what happens is if you're not very good at selling, probably like me, you probably wouldn't be in that business for very long. Now, the commission sometimes is just a straight percentage, but there are some complications, and that's really what I'm going to talk about today. There's two complications. One is that there's a notion of bracketing with commissions, which is to say, here you go. This is the bottom of page bottom of page 14. Uh, Practice question number 5, support question number 5. The idea that you earn a commission, and the amount of your commission, the percent of your commission changes. Okay, and that's a bracket type thing, and it's very similar to the tax brackets we looked at as well. So here's an example. It says George is a car salesperson who earns a commission of 6% on all of his car sales up to $100,000. Okay, and 7% on sales over $100,000. 1 month, George sold $122,345 dollars worth of cars. How much was earnings for that month? Okay, so now I don't know if we actually did this question here. No, it doesn't look like it. So I think I want to show you that question because there's some, it's done the same way as we did all of them except there's maybe some tricky bits to it. Okay, so I'm just going to erase this. This is from back when we were looking at it, and it's question 4. So this is the bottom of page 14, and it's support question 5, and it's a type of question that you should know how to do. So George is going to get 6%. So if we drew a little graph of the way George's commission is, this is 100,000 right here. Okay. So the money he earns below 100,000, if he earns $1, if he earns $100, if he earns $90,000, he gets 6% of that. Okay. Everything over 100,000, he gets 7%. Okay, and this is a common kind of thing. It's a tiered a commission or a bracketed commission, and it's just supposed to incentivize him a little bit because once he's sold a $97,000 worth 1 month, he's got his 6% for all of that. And so maybe he doesn't, he's not that motivated to sell one more car. But if he realizes that he's going to tip himself over the 100,000 and then get 7% on that car, well, then maybe he's going to be a little more motivated. Okay, so that's how it works, and it can work in different. Maybe it has to do with real estate, right? I know one of the things that real estate agents are doing now is they'll ask you what percentage you want to pay them. And I didn't really understand that when I was working with a real estate agent last year. But looking back on it, what I suspect is it's how much service you get, because I think it was a 4% or 5% or 6%, or something like that. It was the choice, and I didn't really know, so I went for the lower one. But probably should have gone for the higher one. Anyway, so the way you work this out is you have to separate the under and the over. Okay. So his earnings were $122,345. Right. Now we're only going to get 7% on the amount that's over the 100,000. Okay. We're not going to get 7% on the whole thing, or we're not going to get 6% on the whole thing. And that's really any of these questions where you have a two-tiered percentages for commissions or earnings or anything like that. That's the way it works. You have to separate them and not mix up the total amount of money with the different brackets. So let's try his 6%. Okay, so his 6% is on the first 100,000. Okay, so there's really nothing to do here. It's just 6%, which is 0.06. I'm going to actually make that a little better here. Okay, so it's 0.06 times 100,000. Okay, now it's dollars. Okay, and if you're really good, you can do that in your head. And if you're like me, you just got to grab a calculator. Oops. 0.06000123. Okay. That's it. So it's $6,000. Right. That makes sense, right? So that's his first 100,000. Now I'm going to change to blue here. So he gets 7% on the amount over 100,000. All right. So the way we do that is we take the total that he sold, which is 122,345. We subtract 100,000 because we already calculated his commission on the first 100,000, right? So just think about it that way, that if we didn't subtract that 100,000, he'd be getting commission twice on that 100,000. He'd be getting it at 6%, and then he'd be getting it at 7%. That's not really fair, right? I mean, he might like that, but that's not the way it works. So we have to subtract 100,000 that is his regular commission. So it's 122,345 minus 100,000. Okay. So the amount that he gets his commission at 7% on is 22,345, and that represents the amount that's over, right? So if I drew it on a little graph over here, maybe I'll switch to green. So maybe there's a little graph over here, and the amount of this is, it's 22,345. But what it represents is the amount that's over the 100,000 that he normally, that's his limit for the 6%. Okay. Now, if he's a really good salesman, he might even have another bracket at 8% if he just has a spectacular month, right? So in that case, then you'd do the same thing. You'd probably first calculate the, you just calculate the slice that was between 100,000 and whatever his next bracket was at 7%, and then calculate everything over that at the higher amount. But anyway, in this case, we just had the 22,345, so that's what we're going to find the 7% of. 22345. Always good to put the units in there so that we're reminded when we look back what the units should be. So times 0.07. Okay, so that's 15,415. So I mean, it's not a huge extra amount that he's getting, but it's something, right? You could actually work out what the difference is. So probably be a nice dinner out or something like that. So, and then we have to remember, and I'll go back to red now. We have to remember that have to add everything up here. So it's going to be 6,000, which is his 7% commission, and then $1,564.15, which is his 7% commission. Okay, and so his take home for the month, that's his gross pay, 7,564.15. Okay, so that's actually not a bad living if you think about it. Right now, that's his gross pay, but he's doing pretty well with that. So, but he's got to be always selling, right? Always sort of can't really slack off at work at all to make that kind of money. Okay, so, and that's the thing about it. That sort of job, and you never know, right? He could waste his time. He could spend a day on someone that doesn't really have the money to buy a car, right? So he's got to be real careful about that. Let's take a look then at now this is straight up commission, right? So that was George, and of course there's more to this because it says George, so I would then just finish this off by saying George would earn $7,564.15. So now we're at we're in question key question 2. I put my cell phone number at the top there. I guess you can write it down if you didn't have it already, and my Facebook stuff. So that's kind of cool. So the key question is asking for various things. Anyway, what I was going to say about commission is that sometimes commission also comes with a salary. So it's not just a straight up percentage. Very often it comes with some salary so that the person can actually pay their bills in times when there's not a lot of cars being sold or a lot of houses being sold. Okay, so and there you go, stockbroker. Here's here's a and here's another one very similar to that, and this is on page 16. So this is about Brenda selling clothes at a boutique. So I'll just kind of go over because it's very similar to that question 5, but you want to make sure that you got it. So Brenda sells clothes in a boutique on Thunder Drive. She earns 12%, so it's 12% on weekly sales up to 20,000 and 15 sales on 15% on all sales over 20,000. How much does she earn in 1 week if her sales were 28,700? Okay. So here we go. So what I did was I drew a little diagram here, and I got the blue. So I'll just outline it here. So her up to 20,000, she's getting 12%, and then for any sales above that 12%, she gets a higher 15%. That's a pretty good bump there. So the way I worked it out then. Let's see, how did I work it out when I did this? Okay, I don't think I fully actually worked it out, but basically what I said was she gets 12% on the first 20,000, so there's no real calculation to do. As long as the amount that she made is over the 20,000, then you just find 12% of 20,000. Okay? But for the second part, it's 15%, but it's only on the portion that's above 20,000. So you have to take what you earn, which is 28,700, subtract the 20,000, which is the bottom of where she earns the 15%. So what's left over is 8,700. So this is a little slice in the 15% bracket, an $8,700 slice of that 8% bracket. So you just find 8% of that. Sorry, not 8%, 15%. I'm still on George's question back there, selling cars. So anyway, it's 15% on that, and then you add them both up. Okay, so that's how you solve that one. And then remember, it may or may not say include a complete sentence in your answer. But if it's a word question, if they say someone's name, if you know anything about them, just answer in words. It's the safest bet, right? If it just says calculate the commission on whatever, and you don't know the person's name, you don't know what store they're at, you don't know what city they live in, then just go ahead and do the calculation. But if you know anything about them, then they're telling you a story, and you should answer in words. Okay. So, okay. So I think we've covered that fairly well in. And as always, if you have some questions, you can always contact me. Okay. So now the next thing we looked at was gross and net pay, and that's the idea that the amount of money that you earn is not the amount of money that you take home. Okay, and it's really important when you're budgeting, and that when you're calculating, you're thinking about a job. You really need to think about, the impact of your deductions. Okay. Now, some of the deductions you're going to get are good. Okay. So, so your gross income is just your straight up pay. It's your hourly rate. It's your salary. It's your commission plus salary. It's whatever it is that you make, your piecework. Okay. But your net income, the amount that you get in your paycheck, that's your net income. Okay. So think of the gross pay, if you're looking at a river, the gross pay is all the fish swimming by, okay? And in your net is the amount you're going to get when you put a net in there. I don't know, maybe that's. So some of this stuff is important to you, and some of the deductions may or may not apply to you, okay? But here's the sorts of things that you can get deducted, right? Income tax, which is... and that we'll talk about that a little bit, but basically, depending on where you earn the income, if you have a status card, then if you earn the income on reserve, then some of your tax is not, you don't have to pay some of it. Okay, that was one of the things we talked about. But if you're off reserve, then you're going to pay income tax. Canada Pension Plan, which is actually a good deal for you because when you get old, then you can get some money and sort of pay your bills with Canada Pension Plan. Okay, employment insurance, and that's, if you get your company shuts down, or if, for whatever reason you're off work, you can get a little bit of money from employment insurance. Then company pension plans. Now this is when a question asks you what benefits are you going to get. That's the sort of thing we're talking about: a company pension plan, health and dental insurance. A lot of times, a company pension plan, you'll contribute $1 for, and the company will contribute $1. Okay, that's a really good deal because you're building up money towards a pension. And I know there is Canada Pension Plan, but honestly, it's not a lot of money. Okay, really, the best kind of pension to have is one that your company or that you contribute yourself. Pretty much everybody should have another pension plan besides Canada Pension Plan. Canada Pension Plan is just, you're going to be sitting in a tiny little house eating tuna, and that's about it. You won't be able to really travel with the Canada Pension Plan. You won't be able to buy a new TV. Like, it's really just going to give you just enough money to get by. But if you have a Canada Pension Plan, then you'll be fine, right? Because then you'll have more money. And then they're also going to give you health and dental insurance. So, because we have health insurance and all that stuff, but some it doesn't cover teeth. It doesn't cover everything to do with health, right? It doesn't cover an ambulance ride, and it doesn't cover certain types of things. So they're going to give you all that. Medicine, right? Health insurance usually includes pharmacy, like prescription drugs and stuff. So it can be a good deal as well. So when you're thinking about two different jobs, and one of them offers a company pension plan and one doesn't, or one offers health and dental insurance and the other one doesn't, that's a value. Those things are quite valuable, and it's as if you're getting more pay, right? And especially the health one, a lot of times they can, a lot of times they'll give you that health insurance for your whole family, right? Which can be a really big deal. Like everyone in your family, your partner, your kids, okay, not your cousins, but just your immediate family. Okay. So anyway, you get all these deductions, right? Life insurance, which is also another good deal if you have a mortgage, or if you're the sole income provider, or if your income is really floating your entire household. Life insurance is a really good deal. And if you can get it through your employer, you probably get a good deal on it. Okay. Union dues, if it's a union shop, you may have to pay that, and then you get the union benefits. And then you can also sometimes do a donation to charity. And I don't know if you've done this, but sometimes, like if a family is had something happen in a family, maybe send $10 a month to them or something like that, or give them just a one-time payment or something. So, and a lot of companies will just allow you to do that right from your pay, so you don't have to come up with the cash. It just comes right off your check. Okay, and then there's some other types of deductions. So anyway, all those deductions come off your gross pay, and then you end up with your net pay. Okay. And they give you some examples here. It's basically, these are all percentages, and if you've been working on that culminating activity, you'll actually see what the percentages are for like EI and CPP. The percentage depends on your income. They charge a lower percentage for the lowest income, and then as your income is higher, they charge a bigger slice. And the thinking behind that is that there's a certain minimum amount of money that we all need, to buy our food and to pay our rent and stuff. So, they work it out so that at the lowest income levels, the deductions still leave you enough money to pay your bills. And then they assume that if you're making a bit more money, maybe you got a good job somewhere in the forest industry or the mine or something like that, maybe you're a teacher, then they'll give you a bit, they'll take a bit more off of those deductions because you've got more to play with. Okay, so once you know what the deductions are, then you just take them off the gross pay. Add up all the deductions and just subtract them from the gross pay. Okay, so that's it. It's pretty straightforward, and usually we don't have to calculate those deductions. They tell you what they are. The exception was in that culminating activity where we just gave you a percentage and you worked that out. Okay. So when you're budgeting, it's really important to budget with net pay, not gross pay. Because if you budget with gross pay, you're going to find out it's about 25 to 30% less uh, what you actually get in your paycheck. Okay. Now, when you're doing these types of questions, you want to make sure that you using the right units, right? So, for example, in this example, which is on page 19, it says Bonnie wants to do a monthly budget. Okay, so okay, here we go. So we actually already worked out Bonnie's net pay. We worked out her weekly net pay. Okay, now watch out for this because it's a mistake to just take her weekly pay and multiply it by 4 to get monthly pay. It will be close, but it's still a mistake because there's not exactly 4 weeks in a month. So when you get a question like this, you have to take the weekly pay and multiply it by 52 to get an annual pay. In other words, if they give you her monthly pay, you multiply it by 12. If they give you her biweekly pay, you multiply it by 26. Whatever they give it to you in, then you really should just convert it to an annual amount by multiplying by, the number of pay periods in a year, the amount that they're getting. Okay, then they ask you for monthly, bi-weekly, weekly. You can just divide it back out. Okay, that's the right way to do it. Okay, and so hopefully you'll remember that if you have to do one of those. Okay, so read those questions carefully and make sure that you understand what the units, what the pay frequency or the pay, how often they're getting paid. Okay, because we talked about all those different, right? You get weekly pay, you get bi-weekly, monthly, semi-monthly, monthly. Some people, there's very few people get annual pay, but CEOs of big companies will get an annual pay. They get $1, right? So, Bill Gates, when he was at Microsoft, probably was getting $1 at one time, and it has to do with the fact that they get so much stock options and everything that if they got paid on top of that, it would make them look a little bit greedy. So they take a $1 salary, and they get it once a year. But most of us don't don't have that kind of money. So we get paid at different frequencies, and everything from weekly, usually bi-weekly, monthly. Possible to get paid daily if you're a casual worker. Okay, you get your pay at the end of each day. So you work out all of that, and then they're going to give you, say, something like this, or they give you a list of expenses. Make sure that, in this case, the expenses are all given monthly. Just make sure that they haven't snuck a weekly one in there somewhere. If they do, then you're going to have to work it out what the monthly would be. Okay. You total up all the living expenses, and then you find out what she has left over at the end of the month. Okay. So this is a multi-step problem where you're given a gross pay and then some deductions and then some monthly expenses. And so we've done quite a few of those, and I'm pretty sure you're going to see one of those on the exam. Okay. So, okay. Yeah, and so this is, okay, that's about it. In this case, it's just you're given a biweekly pay, and then you're given a whole bunch of deductions. Again, everything here looks to be monthly. Oh no, that's biweekly. So okay, so we're good. So then you can actually, you're given his gross biweekly pay, you total his deductions, subtract it, and then the monthly, remember, you have to go from biweekly to annual to monthly. Okay, you can't just go from biweekly. It might seem like it. You could just say, well, biweekly, we double that. No, it doesn't work that way. You've got to go to annual by multiplying by 26. Yeah, 26. Then you get the annual pay. Then you divide by 12. Okay. All right. So yeah, so if you wanted to practice for this, this is the Kristen type question is pretty good because it actually goes through all of the different steps um, of going from gross pay right to how much does she have left over at the end of the month. And that's really the bottom line. That's really what this whole course is about having you have enough knowledge to be able to sit down and do that. Preferably before you make the decision to say get that apartment in Thunder Bay, buy that car, take that new job. Preferably you're going to sit down and you're going to work things out so that you know exactly how much you're going to have at the end of the month. Okay, because it makes a difference between having $100 extra a month and being able to put that away every month, or finding out that you're not really sure how you're going to pay all your bills, right? And we our sense of money, sometimes some people are very good, some people aren't, right? And you'll find out if you start doing budgets, if whether your intuitive sense of money is correct or not. But if you do a budget, there it is in black and white. You can look it over. Maybe you can have someone that you trust look it over, make sure there's no mistakes. And then if you're thinking about that apartment, then you can decide if you can really afford it. If you're trying to decide between two apartments, right, one's cheaper, it's a little further away from, say, where you're going to be going to school or work, and one's closer, and then you can work out whether or not you can afford the more expensive one, okay? Or at least understand the difference, the impact it's going to make, okay? So it's always important to have a budget, and it's the amount of detail that they're putting in these budgets are about all you really need. And once you've done a few of them, you'll have a good idea of what you could put under miscellaneous. Because there's always miscellaneous, right? Somebody comes to the door and they want $5 for some school trip or something, and you don't have that in your budget, but it should be in miscellaneous. Okay. So, and here are the sorts of questions that you need to be able to answer. So this is question 6 in the key questions, page 22. Okay, so it tells you what Jim's semi-monthly, and so watch stuff like that. Whoops, semi-monthly. Okay. And so it gives you his semi-monthly pay. He's paid October 1st and October 15th. So what they're asking you here to do is figure out what all his bills are before he gets that second pay. Okay. And question is, can he float out, can he cover all these bills? Okay. Before he gets that second paycheck. Some people can, some people can't. Okay, it really all depends on when the bills come in and how much they are. But it's important for you to know that, especially if you're moving and you're starting something new, because you might need a float, right? You might need a month's worth of living expenses, right, to cover that first set of bills that come in, and especially the first set when you first move. The phone company wants extra money from you. The electricity company wants a couple of months deposit from you. It's just crazy, right? The apartment you go to, they want your first and last month's rent, so that's 2 months rent, plus they want a damage deposit, plus you want a key deposit, plus you want a pet deposit. It's crazy, right? Whenever you move, you need a lot of money. So having a budget for that will help you really understand that and prepare for it. Okay. If you've got a good job there, it might be a good job, but you might not be able to get enough money for that first half of the month in that first pay to cover everything. So you have to cover that from a little bit of that from last month's pay. Okay. So that happens. Okay. Now this stuff does get easier as you get a little older, as you get a little more experience, but we gotta keep track of these things. So this is a good type of question to go through and see if you can answer all these questions. Okay. And so here's the Yeah, so question D, we actually answered as it turns out he was just barely able to squeak by. Did it include groceries? I think it did. Yeah, it included groceries. So he's good. Okay, but notice he doesn't have a lot left over. So if he had a lot of unplanned expenses or unbudgeted expenses, then right, he might be in a bit of trouble, especially that first half of the month. Okay. So let's so that was it basically. We got our key questions, and these are the same kinds of questions that we've already seen. Okay. Okay, so you may have tried these already. Okay, so we talked about taxes and how we go about taxes and stuff like that, and sort of appropriate for we're coming up to tax season. Okay. So it's just important to know that you can get your tax forms. You can get them at the post office. Right, you can get them online now, which is kind of cool. You go to the Canada Revenue Agency website, and you can also, if you've paid taxes before and they have your current address, they may actually send you the forms. I'm not sure if they're sending the forms anymore or just a code now. For a while they were sending the forms. I'm trying to think. See, I do mine online, so and that's I go to H&R Block website. And I go through my bank. This is kind of an interesting savings. If I go to H&R Block, they charge me, I think it's $30 for myself and my spouse tax form, which sounds pretty good, right? But if I go through my bank, 1 year it was free. And then the next year I think it was like $7 or something like that. It was really cheap. And it's the same thing. It's just H&R Block website. Okay. So it's kind of a good deal. If your bank has that, you have to poke around a little bit in your bank. When you log in, check your account, and they might have a link, and then you can get a very low cost online if you like doing the ones online. Okay, you have to be a little more knowledgeable than if, say, you just bring it to somebody who knows how to do it. Then you don't have to know much at all. Okay, but some people can do their own if it's pretty straightforward. So now you're going to get the T1 general package, but you're also going to get the forms for the province that you live in, and that's where you got to be careful, because if you get them from a post office in Ontario, then they're going to have the Ontario pack. You have the federal package and then the Ontario package forms in there. But if you get them from Winnipeg, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure they're going to give you the Manitoba forms. They may have a choice when you go there. So just make sure you get the right ones. Okay, and the Ontario forms, depending on what your income level is, you may or may not need those forms, right? A lot of them are tax credits and stuff like that where, if you make more than the minimum amount of money, then you probably won't even qualify for that stuff anyway. Okay. Yeah, the non-refundable tax credits and stuff like that. But if you have dependents, if you have kids, then probably going to do that. Okay, so you're going to get a couple of other bits of information then in the mail, and this is really important. You're going to get a T4 slip. That's your statement of remuneration paid. And you're going to get one from every employer you had throughout the previous year. You have to make sure that those employers know your current address. And it's an easy thing. You just call them up and say, hey, I moved. Here's my new address. Okay, and that's especially true if you were staying somewhere, if it was over the summer, or if you've moved a couple of times. These things won't follow you around, and you can't really do your taxes without having these things. By the way, what Canada Revenue Agency says is that if you don't have this, then you should estimate your taxes and send it in with a little note. But it just gets really complicated because it means you can't use an online filing, and and then if you didn't get your T4 because you didn't change your address with them, I think Canada Revenue Agency isn't going to be too happy about that. It's sort of, it would be your fault, right? So you just call up your employer and you just ask for the HR department, Human Resource Department. They do this all the time. It's not a big deal. It should just take about 2 seconds. But don't wait much longer. Like if you are waiting for your forms from last year and you moved, I'd call them about this week, actually, maybe next week. Okay, so if you don't get a T4 from each employer, call that employer. You're supposed to have them, it's a law, by the end of February. So if you don't have them by the end of February, call them up and say, hey, I want my T4. Now, the other thing you may get if you have a savings account or an investment or something with your bank is you get a T5, which is a statement of investment income. Be careful with these. They will send them out even if you only earned a couple of dollars in interest, and it's a real pain. Trust me on this one, uh, because it's income, right? Investment income, right? So if you put some money in a savings account and you get $2 in interest, okay, that $2 is taxed at your whatever tax rate it is, 25%, 20%, right? So you will owe the government about 40 cents. Okay, but the government wants that money, and they can't just say, oh well, it's too small to bother with. No, they want that money, and they'll get it. Okay, so you're going to get a T5 again from every bank or every investment firm where you've had some taxable interest, right? Some investments, anything to do with retirement or education, then those are not taxable, right? The money grows in the accounts. Okay, so you're going to get your T5. So make sure the bank knows where you are, right? And if you've moved, you got to call up the bank and say, hey, my address has changed. Now that may be a little harder to change. You might have to send a form. And if you if it's a joint account, you might actually have to get the other person on that account to also sign your letter or form. Okay. Yeah, and be careful of that, especially if it's a joint account. They'll sometimes tell you to send in the form, you send it in, and then they don't change your address. They'll send you a letter to your old address telling you that you need to have the other person sign the form. Okay, so the other thing you'll get is a charitable receipt, and that's really only if you've sent them, a bigger donation. Usually it's $20 or $25, and they'll tell you. They don't usually issue receipts for anything less than that, just because it costs them too much money. So and they're not really ripping you off a big deal. You'd maybe get $1 back on your taxes for a $20 donation if you had the receipt. So it's not like it's a huge deal. But if you've given them a substantial amount of money, $25, $50, $100, right? Then you want to get that receipt because you won't pay taxes on that money, is what it is. Okay. All right. So, and then they ask you for some, these questions here. So work through these and see what you can come up with. The government was mailing the tax forms to people. Now they're sending you a code so you can go online and do your online taxes. Can you get more than one T4 slip? Yeah, you're going to get one from every employer you had during the previous year. Okay. And then being able to kind of look through these boxes. It's kind of blurry here, but if you had to do one of these on the exam, it would be a lot clearer. Okay. So, and they're just asking, they're always in the same place. Employment income, tax deducted, those are the two biggies. CPP contributions, EI contributions, charitable, right? Union dues, if there are any, okay? This box 17 wouldn't be because that's QPP. And so that's really about it. Very few other things are going to be on there. Most people's T4s look just like that. So a lot of the boxes are blank. Okay. Okay, and so here's a T5, so that's your investment income. Now, keep in mind here that any money in the T5, this is it, 134.29, that is considered income. So it's as if you went out and earned that money. Well, you did by lending the bank money or investing in the stock market or however you did it. So you're going to pay tax on that money. Okay, so not a big deal. This is how you work it out, bottom of page 33. His employment income was this amount, that's from the T4. His investment income was that amount, you add them together, and then that's your total income. Now, if you're using a service, online software, if you're using software to do it, then they'll ask you, did you have any investment income? They might even actually ask you to enter data from all your T5 slips, right, and your T4 slips, and then they're going to work that out for you. If you get it done by someone, they're going to need all your T4s and all your T5s. And really, you don't want to turn all your paperwork over to your person doing your taxes until you have all that stuff. Because if they work it all out and then you get another T5, then they got to work it all out again, just to add those extra dollars to your income. Now, income taxes are charged on brackets, and it's identical to the way we did commissions. Okay, and federal and provincial rates are a little different. And if you needed to work these out, then you would certainly have this information. I don't think that we gave such a complicated question on the final exam like this. I mean, you need to know how to work out tax rates and stuff, but I don't think we gave such a complicated question. Yeah, no, you need to know how to work out your tax rates, but not such a like such a 3 different brackets here. But anyway, this is the thing. So it's going to be 15% on the first part. So there it is. So the way you work these out is you find out what their actual amount is. And then if it's over the first one, then you take 15% of that. If it's over the second one, you take 22% of that. And then you add those up, subtract that from however much they made, and then charge the highest rate on that last little bit that's left over. Okay. So it's identical to the way we do the bracketed commissions. Okay. And then of course Ontario would also be the same. You do the same calculation. So and the taxes are calculated on the the total income, right, and then applied separately, right? So it's not like it would be kind of nice if it was the case, but like Ontario doesn't calculate tax on what's left over after the federal government has had a chance at your income, right? They calculate on the total just like the feds, and then they each get their little slice of your income. Okay. So that's how it works. So you can read through those and make sure you know how to do that type of question. Okay. And then we talked about the hidden taxes, and those are taxes where, if you went to buy something and there was a big sign on it that says you pay an extra tax, you'd probably not be happy about that. But a lot of goods do have those extra taxes. Okay, jewelry, there's a 10% on the wholesale price, okay, which you never see. Cigarettes that have just a hideous number of taxes on them. Over half of the cost of a carton is taxes, and there's all different taxes on it. Okay, gasoline has taxes, and again, in a way, it's a little better on gasoline because it's just there's no extra tax. The price is the price, whereas typically the hidden tax, and then you pay GST or HST on something. Okay, because the gas is one of those weird things that it's just included in the price. Okay. Okay. So make sure that you're able to work out things like this. Taxes. In this case, you're working things out in cents per liter. Okay. So make sure you're able to do that. If they give it to you in dollars per liter, you may want to convert it to cents per liter, or cents, the final answer when you get done. Okay. All right. Okay, so a couple questions like this. Where can someone from your community get their income tax filing done? And just a question. You really should know that. You can do it online. Sometimes it's done in the band office in some communities. Sometimes there's someone that does it, right? Okay, maybe you can take up doing taxes. Okay. All right, so we've seen all these, and that should be fine then. So let's take a look at, so this is the last part of Unit 2 here. Okay. Okay, and this is really just about making change. Okay, so hopefully that'll be fine. Now we don't have any more pennies, so if you make a cash purchase, and it is cash, not cash-like, but actual cash, they're going to round things to the nearest nickel. Okay, and that's why if you go to the store, sometimes you'll see the price will be, it'll have a penny in it, and then as soon as you start to pull out your money, then it'll be rounded, right? The cashier will press a button or something. Or in some cases, it just kind of flips between the two. It flips between the cash price rounded and then the actual price. If you use your debit card, then you're going to pay the exact amount, or your credit card or anything like that. Just cash. Okay, and it's just the idea is that pennies aren't worth fooling with. That's really what it comes down to. It costs more money to kind of take pennies and count them and give them back as change than they're actually worth. Okay, so that's it. And then they talk about getting back fewer coins. And that's just a matter of when you're counting back change, you try and come back, you count out the largest coin or bill available, and then you subtract that from the change mentally, and then just keep doing that until you get to the end. Okay. Sometimes if you're standing in line at the cash, you can sort of reduce the amount of change you're going to get back by giving them a little extra. Okay, so you can read that to figure out how all that works. Okay, and then we did work out sales tax and the various sales taxes, HST for most things, 13%. Okay. Okay, so and I think we got pretty well got that. Okay. All right. And then there was sale prices and just being able to work out a discount, you know, and then doing some estimating, which is a good skill to have if you're in a store. You're trying to figure out how much you'd save. Say if something is on sale for a quarter off or something, you try and do that math in your head. But of course, we all have phones nowadays and calculator built in the phone, so it's a good skill to have. But you can also just pull out your phone and do the calculations, get the exact amount. Okay. So make sure you were able to do those key question number 5, and you know, you can check the feedback on them, see how you did. Okay, review anything where you needed a little extra help. Okay, and I think that's going to be it for today. So what's going to happen tomorrow is you're going to get a pre-recorded lesson, and that fortunately works out to be lesson 3. Sorry, lesson 3, unit 2. I don't know even where that came from. Unit 2, so that'll be great. You'll be able to get the review of unit 2. Now, I didn't get through the whole thing, so when I come back on Wednesday, we'll pick it up. So don't worry too much about that. Now, in case you're wondering, of course, we're going to do this review all the way up to Thursday, and it may seem like we're going to run out of time, but I'm just working with the idea that Unit 4, we really don't have to spend much time on it because we went through it just recently, and plus we did the culminating activity, which is a good review of Unit 4. So mainly we're going to review Units 1, 2, and 3. So 2 tomorrow, finish that off on Wednesday, and then do 3 on Thursday. Okay, well let's wrap that up, and so you'll have your class tomorrow, and I'll actually talk to you live on Wednesday.